Good morning, guys. Welcome to Fishful Thinker. I'm Chad LaChance, and I appreciate you joining us. Now, you have caught me for a show that I feel like is going to be a really good one because we're going to talk about the critical concepts we used to film this entire season of Fishful Thinker television. We caught fish from Alaska all the way down to Kansas. If you're a fan of the show, guys, you'll know another one of these we're going to gravitate to, and that is the finesse jig. And for me, a finesse jig is about as important as it gets, from a 1/16 of an ounce up to maybe a 1/4 of an ounce with a 2.5, 3, or 4-inch gulp minnow on it, or potentially a tube jig, is very, very, very key to all of our fishing. And again, it didn't matter if we're sheep fishing in Alaska.
That's pretty good. And there's that gulp minnow right in the tip of his snout, right where it's supposed to be.
Or we're working a dam face in Kansas. I've now thrown a gulp minnow twice and I've had 2 bites. But I haven't connected yet, so I have to work on that. There you go, we got that one. All right. What did we get? Smallmouth? No, it's a spotted bass. Look at there, guys. So that's 2 species of bass now in no time flat. Or we're working for giant smallmouth in South Dakota.
Got him. Oh, I had him. Got him. There we go, right under the boat. In case anyone wants to harsh my gulp minnow again. Guys, what I threw, since I wasn't clear about it, is I threw a gulp minnow, 3-inch gulp minnow on an 1/8-ounce jig head. And the reason being is there's obviously a bunch of smallies right here, and it's an easy way to catch them.
There you go.
And there's another one, and there's my little, I want to point out, I yesterday was giving this guy a hard time, like, oh, I can't believe you're throwing a jig. He only throws action baits. He got a big smile. It's like, but I designed the jig head.
Yeah, use it.
And a 3-inch minnow right there. You guys have seen that a million times on the show. 3-inch minnow on an 1/8-ounce jig head, fluorocarbon leader on the Xenon, and yet another.
Nice smallmouth.
Dude. Big old smooch. Here you go, buddy.
Finesse jig on a light spinning rod and light line in whatever style of I put that on is going to be a good way to catch fish. And dabbing crappies in Kansas is another one where you can just take that little jig and dab it straight down here. Yeah, guys, it's pretty funny. We spotted a bunch of these crappies suspended in all these bushes right here. And so I got the same thing I'd always get out, a little 1/8-ounce jig head and a 3-inch gulp minnow, and there's a perfect one. The key thing about the finesse jig is it's the most versatile bait of all, and that's a big statement. I can fish it from 100 feet deep to no feet deep.
Popping it right underneath the surface.
I can fish it fast or slow. I can make it extremely real or extremely bright colored or whatever. But it's a very much innocuous bait. It gives them no reason to not bite it, and that's the single biggest thing.
You can see why the gulp minnow does the trick. The tail isn't on the same axis, but that is basically match the hatch. The gulp minnow smells like the real thing, and the real thing looks like the gulp, and that's a baby salmon, you say?
Yep.
As with the jerkbait, there's keys to working it. Sometimes we have to snap jig it. Sometimes we just barely let the current swing the thing, as was the case with the grayling, where it's just barely moving with the current. And you're just barely lifting, dropping to keep the thing moving. And that's the case with the little tiny finesse jig. I'm gonna catch this one right here, watch. No, he didn't get, I got him. I told you. I told you, I saw him rise and I lifted it up in front of him and he just owned it. And now that's 2 in a row that I just lifted it up in front of him. Look at his colors in the water, look at that. Look at that, Mr. Farnsworth.
It's like a betta.
Look at that thing, dude. A Mo betta, this one's Mo betta right here. This one's Mo betta, I'll bring him over here for you. And keep the line tight so he doesn't roll in the net. That's pretty good action. Then on the dam face in Kansas, same thing, down very deep with it. So they were all in the 6 to 10 foot range, just letting the bait get all the way down low and just barely picking it up. There's a 4-inch gulp minnow on a jig head. You guys might have seen that before. That's on the Berkeley half head jig. And it's been bit 3 times in 3 casts. So, ooh, I should have had that one. Oh, there's a pile of them right there. They're biting it right on the bottom. With the crappies, it's just hold it very still and set it in front of them and just lift into them when they bite it. Got it that time. But basically, you have to mix up your scenario just understand that the finesse jig is a very versatile bait.
Look at that minnow right there, guys. Look where that thing, right in the roof of his mouth, right where you want to see it.
Boom! Perfect little largemouth right there, guys. Throwing a little power swimmer on the Fusion 19 swim bait head right there.
Well, I'm gonna look at that little power swimmer right in his face. Look at that, guys. That's what you want right there. So that's 2 species of bass now in no time flat. The boat hasn't moved 50 yards. I've caught a smallmouth, a largemouth, and a spotted bass.
We were catching fish consistently on a spinnerbait and the stunner jerkbait with Dan Spangler in South Dakota, but we were starting to get a bunch of follows. They were tuning into the baits, and I had some fish swipe at it, and it occurred to me that maybe I pick this gulp minnow up and throw it and see what happens. And literally on the first throw, I got bit, dropped the bait back because I missed the hook set. Fish came back and bit it again. I dropped the bait back, I missed him again, gave him plenty of time, and he ate it. And that speaks to the gulp in the first place. First of all, the fish would bite it 3 times. Second of all, the fact that it's so real and so innocuous that they'll just keep hitting it over and over again.
Oh, I just almost got one right there. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Got him. Oh, I had him. Got him. There we go, right under the boat. In case anyone wants to harsh my gulp minnow again. Guys, what I threw, since I wasn't clear about it, is I threw a gulp minnow, 3-inch gulp minnow on an 1/8-ounce jig head. And the reason being is there's obviously a bunch of smallies right here, and it's an easy way to catch them.
There you go.
And there's another one, and there's my little, I want to point out, I yesterday was giving this guy a hard time, like, oh, I can't believe you're throwing a jig. He only throws action baits. He got a big smile. It's like, but I designed the jig head.
Yeah, use it.
And a 3-inch minnow right there. You guys have seen that a million times on the show. 3-inch minnow on an 1/8-ounce jig head, fluorocarbon leader on the Xenon, and yet another
nice smallmouth.
Dude. Mwah! Big old smooch. Here you go, buddy.
In the case of the grayling in Alaska, we had the little tiny power swimmer, the little 2-inch Berkeley power swimmer on a little tiny jig head, and it's, in my opinion, the smallest version. Once you get down from there, you're talking straight ultralight, but the 16th-ounce jig head with the little power swimmer is considerably bigger than anything the grayling normally eat, but again, it's edible, it doesn't give them any negative clues, and they ate it in the crystal clear water.
I don't know if I've ever caught a grayling before.
Well, you are working on it today.
One thing I can tell you, you've never caught one in Alaska. Alaskan Adventure. And Dan, you say these guys are pretty consistent through most of the season?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And Tim's borrowing the same ultralight that I've been throwing. We've been kind of sharing equipment back and forth. That's a 7-foot ultralight, and yeah, yep, that's a beautiful fish. That's another giant, dude. Look at that little power swimmer, guys. Hold that fish real still. I'm gonna look at that little power swimmer right in his face. Look at that, guys. That's what you want right there.
People ask me a lot, what's your favorite bait? What's your favorite bait? What's your favorite bait? Well, guys, the finesse jig is the favorite bait. And you know why? Because I like to catch fish, and I can catch everybody with it, from saltwater to freshwater, to running water, to reservoirs, to ponds. I can catch everybody with that little finesse jig. So if you take only one thing away from this whole season of Fishful Thinker, get yourself an 1/8-ounce jig and something, a little gulp minnow or something in the 3-ounce range. Learn to throw it on light spinning tackle and you'll catch a ton of fish.
That's pretty good. And there's that gulp minnow right in the tip of his snout, right where it's supposed to be.